Hi everyone, Rev Beth Simmons here with a midweek moment for you. So, this past Sunday was Pentecost. That is the day we mark as sort of the birthday of the Christian church, the shift from being a group of Jewish and then some Gentile followers of Jesus to something new and separate that we now call Christian. It was the day that the disciples and the crowds gathered with them were gifted with the Holy Spirit. And they are described as having gathered together and understanding each other's different languages that they were speaking, and that it seemed there was a rush of wind and divided tongues like fire were upon each one of them. And so the symbols for Pentecost are wind and fire, and the color is red. And the Holy Spirit is often connected with creativity, and it is sort of the creative force of the divine. We think of God as creator, but the force with which God created was the Holy Spirit. And it was the Spirit that blew across the winds or the waters at the beginning of creation. And it was the Spirit that was breathed into the first humans in these stories that we tell about creation and the beginnings of the world. And creativity takes time and space. We have had some transitions, family transitions in our household in the last couple weeks, and things are very full and busy, and there's lots of details and things to think about. And so I found myself last week trying to come up with something to talk about during a midweek moment, and I realized that I couldn't come up with anything because my brain was too full and I was too scheduled and too many things going on. And the same is true as, for creativity as it is for the Holy Spirit. And sometimes churches don't leave room. We fill our worship services with words and music even, and we don't leave space. It's, sometimes our worship services end up more like performances that are very practiced and follow a certain regimen, and you can't deviate, and you have a script, and it just is goes right along as the way it's supposed to, and it doesn't leave room for the new with the different, for the Holy Spirit to come in like a breeze or a gale, a spark or a roaring fire to create something different, to breathe new life into places. And we do this with programs, and we schedule the church, and we go to our meetings, and we say, okay, here's the agenda. And very rarely is there quiet? Is there space? Is there asking questions or directions um, or guidance from the Holy Spirit that might lead us to do or say things in a more creative way? So I would like to suggest to you for this week. So if you are local to Hancock and you're going to come join us for worship on Sunday, we are going to do a little creative activity, not too wildly creative. So if it's not going to be like a craft activity if you're not a crafty person. It's going to be a reflective activity. So I want you to work this week on making space for the Holy Spirit for discernment. And if you're not local to Hancock, I want to encourage you to do the same thing in your own life or in your own congregation, however you want to frame that. Make space. Offer yourself a few moments of quiet. Ask a question. and leave room for an answer that may come much later than you would like or anticipate, and in a manner that you might not expect. Take a breath every so often. And when you do, think of it as breathing in the Spirit and the creativity and the creative force, and let your mind go for a little bit, because that's what makes room. That's why so many good ideas come when we're in the shower or when we're taking a walk or sometimes even when we're sleeping, because those might be the only times that we just stop for a moment and we stop thinking, or we stop doing so much, when we're washing the dishes and where our hands are occupied, we're doing some kind of mundane task. So if that's what you need to do in order to just stop for a little bit, then sure, take a walk, or just let your mind sort of wander in the shower a little bit. And at church, see if you can make space for the ways that the Holy Spirit might intercede in what you expect and anticipate and what you are planning. There's a lot of planning. The sermon that I read on Sunday from Reverend Eliza Tweedy, which will be posted on our YouTube channel soon, she mentioned the disciples gathering to plan the new church and plan it right into the ground. I think we all make that mistake very often. We plan and we plan and we plan, and we don't leave room. One of the ideas that came up in our small church leadership community was an invitation to a shift from thinking of a strategic plan to thinking of a strategic intent. So you don't just go willy-nilly waiting for whatever happens, but you don't enact a 5-year step-by-step process of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. But instead, you move with intention, a strategic intent that allows space for plans to shift, for goals to change, for the Holy Spirit and creativity to move and act and engage. So make space this week for creativity and for the Holy Spirit. And I hope that if you're in Hancock, you might join us at 9:45 in the morning for worship. Or if not, then I'll see you here then or next week. Take care. Bye-bye.